Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about a very important little book. It is in the Old Testament. It's called the Book of Esther. Have you read the Book of Esther? Put your hand up. I want to see if you read the Book of Esther. Okay, so you guys, you need to learn the Book of Esther. It's just amazing, amazing book, okay? And it is in the Old Testament. And let me tell you a little bit about my life. I studied the Holocaust in the university for 2 years. And, you know, during the Holocaust, 6 million Jews actually were murdered by the Nazis. And after studying for 2 years about the most evil time for the Jewish people ever, I got into a terrible depression. Terrible, terrible depression. I was crying every single day. I would see children in the street and I would burst out in tears because 1.5 million children were murdered by the Nazis just because they were Jews. And I was depressed for a year. And during that year, I hammered God, literally. Why did you allow this to happen? What will happen with the life of these peoples? What chance did they have to know Christ? Did you know that this was going to happen? Okay, and you know, God is big enough to take on my questions, and He answered me every single one of them, no matter how difficult I thought the questions were. And after a year of actually being depressed and carrying 6 million Jews on my shoulder and crying about it every single day, I said to Yeshua, I had enough of this. I need you to take this away from me. I can't hold it anymore. I can't carry it anymore. Just do something. And while I was praying, the Lord turned up. It wasn't just the Holy Spirit. It was the Lord that turned up. I didn't see Him, but my heart was going to explode out of me. Boom, boom, boom. My goodness, I felt His presence. I was, you know, it was incredible. And I said, oh my God, what do I do now? And the Lord said to me, to my spirit, I didn't hear an audible voice. He said to my spirit, Sonia, lie down. And I lay down, and I felt a heat from the bottom of my heart to the top of my heart. That heart was broken, and the Lord put it back together again. And, you know, now I can talk about the Holocaust from here until tomorrow, and I'm fine. Yeah? And this is only God that can do that, yeah? Yeshua came to heal the brokenhearted, and this is exactly what He did to me. Now, with all the questions that I gave Him and I hammered Him with, was actually regarding the Holocaust, was the Book of Esther. And I said, well, what's going on? Why the Book of Esther? I didn't know, okay? So I started reading the book, and the Lord starts to reveal to me what He wants me to take out of the Book of Esther. In fact, the Book of Esther is a prophecy of the Holocaust, and I'm going to show it to you. So the Book of Esther in Hebrew is called MEGILLAT, Esther. Say it with me, MEGILLAT, Esther. Okay, so what we're going to see the Book of Esther in comparison to the Holocaust and how it's actually a prophecy of it. Okay, so God knew what was going to happen to the Jewish people. Okay, so what's the Book of Esther all about? okay? And we're just going to do a small revision of the book. So we have an orphan Jewish Hadassah, that was her name before it became Esther, gets looked after by her uncle Mordecai. Do you remember that story, okay? Just a basic story of the book of Esther. She became the wife of the king of Persia as Ahasuerus in the 4th century BC and changed her name to Esther, okay? Haman, an official of the government of King Ahasuerus, tried to annihilate the Jews of Persia by deceiving the king against them. Esther, through prayer and fasting, manages to overturn the king's decision. The king decided to show favor to the Jews and allow them to defend themselves from an attack. The Jews win against their enemies. Esther declares a new festival that is actually called Purim, okay? And we actually celebrate it even to today, okay? So this is 4th century BC. This is Persia, which is modern-day Iran. And here is a guy that hates the Jews with a vengeance called Haman, okay? And we are going to talk about all of it. Okay, so I want to show you that the book of Esther is actually a prophecy. Why? Because the name of God in Hebrew is Yahweh. Can you say that? Yahweh. That's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yahweh, that's his name. What does his name mean? Now, in Hebrew, when we actually give a name, it actually denotes the character of the person that had that name, okay? So if God have his name, Yahweh, that's who he is. That is his character, okay? So what does his name mean, Yahweh, the one who was? It is actually a verb that is 3 verbs of the verb to be in one word. The verb to be in the past, the verb to be in the present, and the verb to be in the future. He was, he is, he will be. Yeah, that's the name of God. Okay? And this is why in the book of Revelation it says he's the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. So when he actually gives something in the Bible, it's prophetic because his character is prophetic. You will see that many prophecies in the Bible is actually repeated throughout history because, you know, because he's God, because that's his character, yeah? Which is an amazing book, the Bible that we have. Absolutely incredible book, okay? So what does Megillat Esther, wrong one, okay? What does Megillat Esther means? And if you like to take a picture of this, it's a good idea to take a picture of this, okay? So Megillah in Hebrew comes from the word legalot, which means to find or to discover. It means a scroll. Okay, we call all the scrolls of the Bible Megillah. But when it comes to Esther, we say Megillah, the scroll, but that means to find and to discover, legalot, okay? And then Esther. Esther in Hebrew comes from the word leastir, to hide, to turn your head, to hide something secret. So what is actually telling us in the Bible when it says Megillat Esther, it says you have to find something that is secret inside the book. Now you say, wow. The Hebrew language is just incredible, okay? That's why we're going to talk Hebrew in heaven. So you might as well start learning now, okay? All right. Okay, so we go back. Why? Why? Because there's many secrets in the book of Esther. One of the secrets is that the name of God doesn't seem to appear anywhere. But it does, okay? It does. And there are many phrases in the book of Esther where the first letter of a word is actually denoting the name of God, okay? Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. If you know a little bit of Hebrew, it will help you. And this is the tetragrammaton. I don't know if you heard of that, okay? Is the Y, the H, the V, and the H. That's actually the name of God, okay? In Hebrew, we only have consonants. We do not have vowels. Yeah? Did you know that? Okay? No vowels in Hebrew, just consonant. It's actually a shorthand. And we write from the right to the left, yeah? Because once upon a time, we used to write on stone. So we have a chisel on the left hand and a hammer on the right, and in that way, we'll be writing Hebrew from right to left, okay? So it's the other way around. And then we started writing with a pen. Okay? So what you have here is that many times in the book of Esther, the word appears, the word of God appears, but is hidden within the text. There are many things hidden in the book of Esther that you need to find. Okay? And you can only do it in Hebrew. It doesn't translate. Yeah, you cannot translate something like this. This is why I'm saying that the book of Hebrew, the book of Esther is actually a secret message to the Jewish people. Only the Jewish people can understand this one. Okay? Only the Hebrew-speaking Jewish people can understand this one. Okay? Okay. Another thing that is hidden is the name of Esther. Esther actually doesn't tell the king that she's called Esther and she comes from the Jewish nation. She hides it, yeah? Mordecai tells Esther, don't tell him your name, and she changed her name to Hadassah. It changed from Hadassah to Esther, okay? Now, King Ahasuerus of Persia did not know where Esther actually came from. Yeah, another hidden thing. Okay, and then what else do we have hidden is actually a battle between good and evil. In the book of Esther, a spiritual war between the enemies and the people of Israel. Manifested by the prayer and fasting of Esther and the Jewish people. We have a physical and a spiritual war going on alongside one another. Yeah? Do you remember when Moses actually and the people of Israel were fighting the Amalekites, and Moses put his hand up and he couldn't hold them? You know, if he put his hand down, he will lose the battle. So two people actually hold the hands of Moses until that war was won against the Amalekites. Here we have a spiritual, and it's fascinating because this is Persia, guys, it's Iran. And look what's going on with Iran today, okay? We'll talk about that later on. Another hidden thing in the book of Esther is Haman. Haman's intentions was hidden from the king. The intention of Haman was the annihilation of the Jewish people. He hated the Jewish people with a vengeance. Now, Haman, we know, he is a direct descendant of Esau and the Amalekites. Okay, a direct descendant of Esau and the Amalekites. And this is very, very important, and I will explain to you in a minute, okay? According to the rabbis Sadok Cohen, in the history of mankind, Amalek symbolized the main evil amongst the nations and has always risen to destroy Israel. There is a spiritual issue here that hates the Jewish people with a vengeance and wants to annihilate the Jewish people. Look what's happening with Iran, with the Ayatollahs. Iran is 1,700 kilometers away from Israel, okay? And they hate us with a vengeance. Why? We don't even border with that country. Can you see what's going on? Yeah? There is a spiritual issue going on, okay? When the time of redemption is imminent, it will be eternally annihilated. We'll look at that in a minute. Since evil and all those who raise its value are destined to non-existence, okay? So I want to show you exactly where Amalek is coming from, okay? And this is actually in Genesis 36, verse 12. Now, Timnah was the concubine of Eliphaz, Esau's son. And she bore Amalek to Eliphaz. Those were the sons of Ada, Esau's wife. Okay, so we have Esau. Do you remember Esau and Jacob? They were twins, right? What did Jacob do? He took the inheritance from his brother. From that moment on, they hated each other. Okay? And that hatred passed from generation to generation through Amalek. Okay? Through Amalek. So here we have Esau. Here we have Ada, the wife of Esau. She had Eliphaz, okay? And Eliphaz married Timnah, and Timnah had Amalek. You can actually see how the descendancy is actually happened, okay? So it's fascinating that this hatred is passing from one generation to another, okay? The Esau's territory was actually Edom. Can you see Edom in the map, okay? In Genesis, the chiefs of Edom, who were descendants of Esau, it says like this: these were the chiefs of the sons of Esau, the sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn son of Esau, were the chief Timnan, Omar, chief Zepho, chief Kenaz, chief Korah, chief Kotam, chief Amalek. There we have the descendants of Amalek. Those were the chiefs of Eliphaz of the land of Edom. So the territory of the Edom is also the descendants of Esau, Amalek, okay? All right, and then this is fascinating. Here is Moses fighting in the desert against Amalekites. He puts his hand up and he defeats Amalek in this instance, okay? I'm not going to read it all so that we can go a little bit faster, okay? And here is Moses, okay? And then it says like this: then the Lord said to Moses, write this for a memorial in the book and recount it in the hearing of Joshua, that will utterly blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under the heaven. Yeah, God eventually is going to get rid of Amalek because of this hatred against the Jews. And Moses built an altar and called his name, the Lord is my banner. Okay, verse 16. For he said, because the Lord has sworn, the Lord will have a war with Amalek from generation to generation. Okay, here the Amalekites, those that hate the Jews with a vengeance. Now, when King Saul came about, Samuel actually said to King Saul, when you go and fight the Amalekites, you have to kill everybody. Women, children today will say, oh my goodness, you know. But look what God said to Saul, you have to kill everybody of that family because of the deep hatred against the Jewish people. It says in 1 Samuel 15, thus says the Lord of hosts, I will punish Amalek for what he did to Israel, how he ambushed him on the way when he came out from Egypt. So the Amalekites were actually hitting the rear guard of Israel, where the women and the children and the weakest of the community were, so to kill them, okay? So that was really vicious. Now go and attack Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have, and do not spare them, but kill both man and women, infant and nursing child, ox and sheep, camel and donkey. I mean, God said to Saul to kill everybody. What does Saul do? he spared the king of Amalek that was called Agag. He did not follow what God said, okay? He spared Amalek, but Saul and the people spared Agag, okay? So here is King Agag of the Amalekites still alive. And I want you to see where Haman is coming from. Who is Haman in the book of Esther? He is an Agagite. That means that he is a direct descendant of Agag of the Amalekites. Now you need to say, wow. Unbelievable. Now, I can almost be 100% sure that the Ayatollahs in Iran are direct descendants of the Amalekites too, because of their hatred against the Jewish people. They want to annihilate the Jewish people, exactly the same as this guy in the 4th century BC. Can you see this? How the Bible is so amazing. How incredible the Bible is. That it actually explains even what's going on now. Yeah? Incredible. Okay? He is a direct descendant of King Agag and therefore an Amalekite. Blind hatred against the Jews. Interesting that it is in Persia, okay? And this is where we have the Ayatollahs from. Okay, so how do we connect this to the Holocaust, okay? The connection between Esther and the Holocaust are given in the book of Esther itself by the hidden codes and the rabbinical interpretation throughout the centuries, okay? So now let me show you what the rabbis had said regarding Germany, regarding the Amalekite, this blind hatred against the Jews. This is an interpretation of Psalms 140. Sorry, I put it in Spanish. Psalms 140, verse 9, okay? The deliverance from evil men. That's the psalm all about, okay? And this is what the Gematria, which is actually part of the Talmud, this is what the rabbis say regarding this. Rabbi Itzhak explained what it says in Scripture. Do not further his wicked schemes, lest they'll be exalted. This refers to Edom's Germany. Look how the rabbis, this is actually the 3rd or 4th century BC that this rabbi already is connecting Germany with Edom, with the Amalekites, okay? This refers to Edom's Germany because if they advance, they can destroy the whole world. And look what Germany did. They advanced and almost got rid of the whole world, okay? Definitely of Europe, okay? Germany, the name of the monarchy of the kingdom of Edom, is the rabbis that are actually connecting these two, 3rd or 4th century BC. And then we have also another very famous rabbi in the Jewish community that was called Gaon of Vilna in 1720 to 1797 is when he lived. And he said that the German nation was from the seed of Amalek. Externally were kind and friendly, but they had a bitter hatred against the Jews. You actually have the reference there, so you can go and find out more if you like, okay? This is another rabbi, Rashi. Is one of the principal rabbis in the Talmud. And he also said that Germania, which is actually Germany, was the kingdom of Esau. Okay, so here you have rabbinical thinking already before the Holocaust happened that Germany was to do with Amalek, okay? Now, what happened in the history of Esther, okay? So we're going to look at what Esther said. Esther 9, verse 5 to 10. It says, thus the Jews defeated all their enemies with a stroke of the sword, with slaughter and destruction, and did what they pleased with those who hated them. Okay, so here is the Jews won the battle against their enemies. And look what it says. And in Shushan, the citadel, the Jews killed and destroyed 500 men. Okay, so what happens is that the sons of Haman, how do you pronounce it in English? Haman or Aman? Haman. You see, I pronounce it completely different. Okay, so we say in Hebrew Haman, but in English it's Haman. Okay, so the sons of Haman get killed. They're already dead. And look what Esther, first of all, look at the names of these guys. It's pretty difficult, okay, but we need to go through the names to understand what happened later on. And it says, Esther 9. Also Parashandata, Belzephon, Asapha, Porantha, Adalia, Aridata, and so on, okay? Verse 10, the 10 sons of Haman, the sons of Hamandata, the enemy of the Jews, they killed, okay? So they were dead. And we're going to go to Hitler's Germany. Hitler hated the Jews with a vengeance, as you know. He wanted the world to abandon the Judeo-Christian values, wanted himself to be called a barbarian. He was actually very proud to be called a barbarian. Okay? This is what he said. It is true. We are barbarians. It is an honorable title. I have freed humanity from the bonds of the soul, from the degrading suffering caused by the false vision called consciousness and morality. And who are to blame for giving consciousness and morality to the world is the Jewish people. This is what he said. The Jews have caused 2 wounds in mankind, circumcision in his body and consciousness in his soul. Okay? So he had to get rid of the Jews. This is the blind hatred, the Amalekite blind hatred against the Jews because of who they are and what they do. Okay. And then we have a little bit more of Hitler. He says, this is what he said. The war of world domination will be fought entirely between the Germans and the Jews. Everything else is a facade and an illusion. Yeah? So he had this thing in his head that if he gets rid of the Jews, he will have control of the world. Yeah? Blind hatred, blind hatred against the Jews. And then, if Hitler hated Judaism, why didn't he stop people following the Torah, Yom Kippur, etc.? Yeah? So he allowed the Jews to follow all the festivities, all the Jewish festivities, apart from one. He hated Purim. Why did he hate Purim, the festival of Esther? Because in that instance, the Jews won against the enemies. So he hated Purim and forbade the Jews from celebrating Purim. How about that? Isn't that amazing? Okay? So anyway, next one. Okay? So Hitler feared Purim will happen again if he did not win the Second World War. Hitler and his cronies representing Amalek in Germany, okay? Now, you know that the descendants of Haman, the bad guy in the story, were already killed, but then Esther came to the king, and Queen Esther said to the king, the Jews have killed and destroyed 500 men in Shushan the citadel and 10 sons of Haman, okay? And what happens is, in the time of, okay, I'm missing one here in mine. Okay. And then what they have done in the rest of the king's province now, what is your petition? It shall be granted to you. This is what the king is saying to Esther. Or what is your further request? It shall be done. Then Esther said, if pleases the king, let it be granted to the Jews who are in Shushan to do again tomorrow, look at this, the sons of Haman are already dead, okay? To do again tomorrow, according to today's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged on the gallows. They were already dead. And here is Esther saying, tomorrow. Why tomorrow? It's actually talking about prophecy. It's talking about the future. Let the son, let's kill them tomorrow again. Yeah? So the king commanded this to be done. The decree was issued in Shushan, and they hanged the Haman's 10th son on the gallows. Now, we have also 10 Hitler's sons hanged on the gallows on the 16th of October, 1946. 10 sons of Hitler hangs off the gallows, okay? One of them actually commits suicide, which is goring, and we're going to talk about that. Look at this. They should have been hanged already in 1945. Can you see 10 sons of Haman? 10 sons of Hitler actually are hanged on the gallows, okay? They should have been hanged already in 1945. But different issues push it back to the 16th of October, 1946, when one after the other is hanged. Now, one of them, this guy that was in charge of the virulent anti-Semitic newspaper, Der Stürmer, his name was Julius Streicher, one of them that was going to be hanged, and when he was about to hang, he actually shouted, Purim Fest, which is the Feast of Purim, 1946. Okay? So you can actually see the connection. Okay? And I want to show you what is the 16th of October, 1946. This is actually the Gregorian calendar, but the Jewish calendar, we have a different calendar in Judaism, is the 21st of Tishrei, 5707. Why is this important? You will see. First of all, it is actually part of the festivity of the booth. At the end of the festivity of the booth, on the 7th day, we have a festival in Jewish tradition that is called Hoshana Rabbah. What is Hoshana Rabbah? It's the day in Jewish law that the judgments of the nations is going to happen. Now look at this. The Lord judged on the 16th of October, 1946, these 10 sons of Haman and hanged them. Okay? Yeah? Isn't that incredible? Isn't that incredible? That's not all of it. That's not all of it. Let's continue. Okay? You should know that every letter in the Jewish alphabet, and you can actually see the letters in the Jewish alphabet have a numerical value. Okay? And because it has a numerical value, that means that we can actually check the codes that are in the Bible. This is untranslatable. This is what I'm saying. This is a secret that the Jewish people figured out. Why? Because in the book of Esther that is actually written in Hebrew, you have some little letters that, little letters that appear. Can you see that the word, these are the names of the 10 sons of Haman. okay? And you can actually see little letters. Can you see the little letters all of a sudden? You have little letters, yeah? And this has been copied from one Hebrew Bible to another, exactly the same from the 4th century BC until today, and we didn't have the faintest idea why we have those little letters. But because it was in the Bible, they decided we're going to do exactly the same, and this is how it was actually passed from generation to generation. Until we realized what this code was, because it was a code. Here are the 10 sons of Hamas. There's the little letters in red. Can you see that? Okay? They represent a numerical value. What is it? One of the letters is called in Hebrew Tav, and that is 400. The other one, Shin, that is 300. The other one, Zayin, that is 7. Altogether is 707, okay? This is 707, but we didn't know which millennium. Remember that we have different millenniums in the Hebrew calendar. Which millennium is represented by the huge letter Vav? Can you see the letter Vav there? Okay, huge letter Vav, and that is actually giving us the millennium 5,000. Altogether is 5,707, and that is exactly what the Gregorian calendar gave us, 1946. So the Lord was actually giving the date that these 10 sons of Hitler actually were going to be hanged in the book of Esther itself. No non-Jew, non-Hebrew speaker can actually understand the code because it's a hidden message to the Jews. Now you say, wow. Isn't the Bible amazing? Isn't it incredible? I mean, talk about mind-blowing, right? Yeah. Absolutely mind-blowing. Okay, I want to show you another scroll of Esther, another Megillat Esther. So they're always doing the same thing. Here is the 10 sons of Haman, and look at the little letter there. Okay, what other little letters we have? Okay. I can't see them at the moment, but they are. Okay, so here is one, and I don't have all the 10. Okay, but nevertheless, okay? Look at the Vav. Look at the massive Vav, okay? This is actually giving the millennium. Yeah? Pretty amazing, don't you think? So it's being copied from one generation to another without knowing why this was the case. So here are the millenniums, Aleph, 0 to 1,000. This is actually, the Jewish people are actually counting from the creation of the world onwards. Yeah? So this is Aleph. Oops. I don't touch it, and it still goes. Oy vey. Come on, come back. Okay. So second millennium is Bet, 1,000 to 2,000. Third millennium, 2,000 to 3,000. This one, the Bet, is time of Abraham. 3,000 to 4,000, time of Yeshua. 2,000 years later, this is us. Okay, nosotros. Lo puse en español. Okay, and then we are today in 5,784 in the Jewish calendar, and we are missing between 160 to 200 years in that count. So we could be as far as the year 5,984 in the Jewish calendar, yeah? Remember that God created the world in 6 days. On the 7th day, he rested. Remember that one day for God is like 1,000 years, yeah? So it could be that these millenniums are the days that God is actually giving to this world, and then the 7th day, the day of rest is actually the time of the millennium of Yeshua. Isn't it interesting that it's a millennium? Can you see this? Can you see how close we are from the end of the 6th millennium? Now you say, wow. Okay, mind-blowing, right? Okay? But we don't know exactly where we are because there is, oh, gosh. Oh, where is it? Okay, so there is a probability here between 160 to 200 years, okay? So then comes the millennium of Yeshua, and then you have an 8th day. This is where you don't count anymore. This is infinite, okay? After the millennium, the New Jerusalem comes, and then we'll be with Christ forever and ever and ever. This is, okay. Anyway, we've gone off a tangent. But nevertheless, we always go on a tangent in a tour. Okay, so this is one of the sons of Haman that actually killed himself while in prison, okay? And he was Hermann Göring. You can see that he committed suicide in 1946. He was a gangster, according to everybody that was talking about him, a transvestite. He actually cross-dressed with women, like a woman. He was commander-in-chief of the Luftwaffe, which was actually the Air Force of Germany. And he was the one that invented the Gestapo. Okay, so he was an amazing character, if you like. And he was found dead because he committed suicide, and then they checked his clothes, and he had female clothes underneath. Okay, so he was a big mess, this guy, and he represents the daughter of Haman. What did the daughter of Haman do? Also commit suicide. Why does she commit suicide? Because remember that Mordecai actually uncovered a plot to kill the king Ahasuerus. And Mordecai tells Esther, and then she tells the king, and the king wants to present Mordecai with a gift and ask Haman to push a chariot for Mordecai and shout at the top of his voice, "Thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor on behalf of Mordecai." Okay? The daughter of Haman did not realize that was his father shouting this. He thought it was Mordecai. He thought that Mordecai was pushing that chariot and his father was on top of the chariot, and it was the other way around. Okay? And what did she do? She pooped and threw the poop at her father. She thought it was Mordecai, but she threw the poop at her father. And because of that, she was so ashamed of it that she actually committed suicide. So we have a daughter of Haman, and here we have this guy that was a transvestite, and he commits suicide as well. Can you see the connection? Isn't this incredible? Okay? All right, next one. Okay, so let me show you this. I know you don't understand, don't worry, okay? This is the book of Esther in Hebrew. Now, when I asked the Lord, did you know that 6 million Jews were going to get murdered by Hitler? The answer was in the book of Esther. Now, I want to show you this to you, okay? First of all, you have the Hebrew letters. Above the Hebrew letters, you have sometimes musical notes. Why? Because when we actually have the book of Esther read in the synagogues during Purim, they sing the book. Now, when Haman is mentioned, all the kids go, boo, boo. Yeah, so we have a hell of a game going on at the same time as we read the book of Esther. Okay? So it's fantastic. Okay? So what you have here on the top is musical notes. Below, you have a code that was actually made to have consonants, to have vowels. Remember that we don't have vowels, yeah? And the dots actually underneath representing vowels, some of them. But some of them are not musical notes, and they are not vowels. They're actually tiny little letters. So here, in the word Amalek, can you see that? Amalek, which means the king. On top of Amalek, you have a little Hebrew letter, which is the Ain, the letter Ain. That represents 50. And then you have another word here, and you have a circle there, and that's actually Samech, also have a numerical value. Okay, hang on. There. Gosh. Okay, there it is. It has a numerical value, and so on. These little letters are spread out in the whole of the book of Esther. If you actually add every single tiny letter in the whole of the book of Esther, it comes to 6 million. 6 million. So the book of Esther is actually a prophecy of the Holocaust. God knew exactly what was going to happen. Yeah? And it's to do with Amalek. I don't know if you heard the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, on the 7th of October, he said, Amalek have attacked us. Yeah? And he compared this hatred of Amalek to the hatred of Persia, Iran, to the hatred of the Ayatollah, to the hatred of Hamas. It's all connected. Can you see this? Yeah? Even to today, it's connected. Okay? And in conclusion, okay, we see that the book of Esther is a prophetic book. It is a prophecy about the Holocaust. And on the question that I gave to God, were the Jewish people at fault here? Did the Jewish people, was one of the questions, did the Jewish people were to blame for the murder that they received during the Holocaust? And God said, no, it's just hatred, like it happened in the book of Esther. Yeah? It's just hatred of the Jews. Yeah? The Jewish people did nothing wrong. Like this time, they did nothing wrong. Yeah? In October the 7th. They just were hatred with an ancient hatred, anti-Semitism, like it happened in Nazi Germany. The code system in the book of Esther cannot be translated. This is why it's not in your Bibles. Yeah? You cannot translate something like this. This is a secret message to the Jewish people. Okay? And that's it. That's it.